Good afternoon, good morning, and we're doing it live. Hello, everybody. Hope that you can be able to hear me and see me loud and clear on today's webinar. We're going to wait just a moment more. Thank you for your absolute early attendance here. We're going to wait just a moment more for the clock to hit 3 p.m. Central European, 2 p.m. UK, and 9 a.m. Eastern. If there's any brave souls, of course, on Central, Mountain, or Western time, US or North America, then thank you guys very much for joining so early. Just wait one more moment to let some of the people that are coming in at the top of the hour, coming off of their last Teams meeting, leaving no time for themselves to be able to get a cup of coffee or use the restroom that it seems as if we're all very good at nowadays. Just wait one more minute here. And for my colleagues that are in attendance, it'd be great if you could be able to just let me know that the sound is good. Richard, we're all good on sound here?
Sound is great.
Thank you very much. And we'll just wait a moment more and we'll get into things. All right, the clock is properly 3 p.m. and we'll get into things here. Thanks everyone for joining into today's webinar. I know that there's going to be some more people that join as we get into the content. My name is Sam Jenks. I'm the CRO at Kodiak Hub. I'm also been in the space of SRM for the last 10 years. I'm very excited to be talking to you guys today about a topic that's near and dear to my, and I would say most tech vendors' hearts, the aspect of building or buying. What is right for you? And I think that what we're going to try and leave everyone with today is a bit of verbiage that they can use internally to make sure to sell the case if you're interested in software for supplier relationship management, finding why it's important that supplier relationship management software is in fact for you with the jobs to be done in procurement. And then also beyond that, leaving you with a decision-making framework and matrix that can be very handy in taking those internal discussions around whether you should be looking to build or to buy. I am in fact joined by my trusty colleague and sidekick, so I apologize to him for not having his face on the screen today. Charlie, the office dog, is here with me in person, and he's laying in the chair directly next to the desk that I'm sitting on. So yes, I have not trained him to get off of the furniture, and no, I cannot control him if he gets opinionated and wants to be able to bark during today's session. So we'll see. To get the chat heated up, let's utilize the chat function. You guys can do so. You see on the right-hand side, there is a public chat. Make sure to type in, where are you calling in from? It's always nice to be able to see where people are sending in from really quickly. I will also myself, currently based out of Stockholm. Oh, Havana from Paris, nice. We got London in the house. We have Düsseldorf in the house, Nottingham, Manchester, Nashville. Very exciting. Reading, Berkshire, Bremen, Singapore. All right, cool. APAC. Hello, Josh. Hello, Sharon. Awesome to be able to see. Thank you guys for heating up the chat. And I'm sure then that more people will get inspired as they come into the session as well. Hello, also, then it looks like Serena in Nashville, Tennessee. Howdy. Let's get into today's content then, starting off with the agenda. Wanted to be able to share with everybody here. The agenda for today, we're going to be able to take a quick glance at Kodiak, who we are. We're not going to really focus on that very long because we're going to get into the actual content for today, which is focused on the jobs to be done. The jobs to be done in procurement, I think that we've all experienced their surmounting. I think that on top of that, there is a real importance for us to be able to sell how are we going to get the technology, the resources, and the means that we need to be able to do the jobs that are surmounting within the procurement function. Beyond that, we're going to focus on some of the common pitfalls that people experience when building software rather than choosing to go out to market and buy. It's this classic, how would I say, OPEX versus CapEx discussion that so many businesses have. Should we take the cost up front and invest long term, or should we, for example, look at a software as a service for a rolling cost as well as part of the day to day? We're also then going to talk about this age in AI, right? And it's, oh, sorry about the balloons. I guess it's because I raised my hands. This age in AI, it says that we're living in dog years, and we're going to talk about what exactly that means when we get into the content. We're also going to talk a little bit about the cost of inaction, as well as then also the ROI, the comparison that there is between build versus buy, and then leave everybody with a decision-making framework for build versus buy before we get into a short demonstration of the Kodiak Hub platform. The demonstration is going to be incredibly high level, just give you a flavor for the UI and the UX. The real focus for today's session is going to be really on the content and the focus of build versus buy. With that being said, I'm going to give a quick intro into who Kodiak is at a glance for those of you that don't know about us. We are a supplier relationship management provider that is headquartered in Scandinavia. We're Scandinavian at heart, but truly global, with a team, an awesome team that's based in the Nordics, UK, DACH, and now also the US. We have a suite that our customers love and rave about. Don't take it from me. Check out our accolades. Go on Capterra and G2 if you're interested in learning more about what our users say about us. The platform itself is a modular one, which makes it a box of chocolates for our users and also our customers. They can be able to pick and choose the different modules as they see fit and scale the solution over time. As you see on screen here, the modular overview. This gives you a quick overview of the different capabilities that are encompassed within a modern SRM suite. Everything within the hub being supplier information, data, document management, to the capabilities on the left-hand side of the screen for third-party risk screening from a perspective of contextual country risk, sanctions, financial credit, and media ongoing monitoring, whereas the right-hand side of the screen is focused on orchestrating complex processes and workflows in global businesses where otherwise, risk is involved and also performance is hard to be able to manage. These particular modules are covering really the life cycle from intake to onboarding and self-assessment, auditing, and performance evaluation. We today work with awesome world-class procurement teams, and we're so proud to be working with these various brands. The main thing that I want to be able to highlight here is that we work with businesses where I would say quality and sustainability matters in their supply chains, and they have truly global supplier bases where they need to focus on speed and also performance in their supply chain. And that's why they partner with Kodiak Hub to be able to manage their supplier relationships as well. These particular businesses have chosen to buy rather than build, albeit I think that today we're going to see if you're ready to take that exact same journey. Where I would like to start is with a quick poll on everybody to be able to launch the first poll here. I want to ask where you are in your current journey related to supplier relationship management. I know that some people are probably earlier, some people are potentially later. So you see on screen now a poll, and I would like to understand, where are you in your current journey of supplier relationship management, both within the program that you're maybe managing or looking to manage, as well as then also the particular systems that you're applying as well. So take a moment, be able to respond on that particular poll now. There we go. People are starting to respond. It's tallying up. 25 people in attendance, only 13 votes. Take a second to be able to vote on today's first poll. All right. So it looks like the majority of individuals that are in attendance here are earlier in their journey, whereas there is a split, about 20% of people that have already selected a solution, which is great. 20% of people that are also in the selection mode. So it's about 65-45 as far as people that are earlier in their journey versus those that are a little bit later in their journey. For those of you, of course, that are in awareness and education, hopefully today we'll be able to inspire you again with some of the verbiage and also then kind of the different types of I would say best practices of how to be able to inspire and educate your business, but also to get the investment that you need, but also to decide, is it right for you to build or is it right for you to buy? For those of you that are later in your journey in a selection mode, maybe you'll get some more inspiration, of course, of the business case to build and to solidify why it is important to go out to market and buy if that's what you truly believe. And for those of you that are mature, of course, hopefully we'll be able to show you a potential alternative to the ways that you're working today. And if you're mature and don't have an existing solution that is a buy solution, but rather something that you've built internally and you're trying to maybe restart on your journey, hopefully we can be able to help you there as well. Without further ado, then, let's get into the content. So what do we know? Well, the majority of procurement teams are still managing their suppliers and the supplier relationships, supplier risk, supplier performance with Excel solutions or homegrown solutions. With that being said, we did a study together with ProcureTech in 2024, where we found that 28% of top performing teams were utilizing bought solutions from vendors in the market to manage their supplier relationships. The status quo seems to be the thing that, businesses think is still, quote unquote, good enough for supplier relationship management. And I think that what we've recognized is that it is not good enough. And I feel like a lot of teams are feeling the pain, but of course, the CFO, the board, when we're getting into budgeting season, they want to be able to see the gain. They want to understand what is the ROI that supplier relationship management solutions can be able to bring. And if you're not able to be able to how do I say, solidify that within a board discussion, well, then often a business is going to point and say, let's build something, right? We can stay homegrown rather than going out to market. We don't need to be able to take on that investment, right? We could have a team of IT and engineering professionals. Unfortunately, though, we see time and time again in complex supply chains and complex businesses, the status quo just isn't good enough. Before we get into the whole session about building or buying, I wanted to just quickly define what do we mean by build versus buy. So as you see on screen here, I have 3 bullet points on each of these particular areas. Building, meaning, of course, internal engineering, your IT team utilizing low-code or AI-assisted solutions, assembling different workflows or different solutions to be able to create a bespoke solution. This typically comes with heavy customizations of existing solutions, right? I think a lot of our the market that we talk to that is in the build focus or trying to get out of a build, they utilize a mix of their ERP and Microsoft Power Apps, Forms, Power BI, together also with Excel and alike to be able to piecemeal together different capabilities. Whereas going out to market and buying, of course, this is a out-of-the-box pre-built solution with pre-built capabilities for different supplier relationship management focused tasks and activities. This is what we mean by buying. What do we also mean by buying is not just, for example, something that's built internally and that your team has to be able to keep up to date, but of course, something that is roadmapped and being continuously tested across many customers with continuous development and releases by a third party or external vendor that is supporting you with that particular technology. Now, there's pros and cons to both of these things. And as a vendor, obviously we're opinionated and a bit biased within this particular question. But what I wanted to do was to take a moment and talk about the pros of both of these things, because there is pros in both of them. If you want to be able to build a solution, whether it's for supplier relationship management or various procurement processes across the source to pay life cycle, there are benefits. You can be able to build exactly to your processes. So what you can do is, of course, build the process and then build the solution. You don't need to compromise. You don't need to be able to manage change, right? You can operate exactly as you operate today. And then the question to be asked is, well, are you happy with how you're operating today? Do you want to take your manual processes and just digitize them, or do you want to actually digitalize them? Meaning, of course, taking them to the next level. This, of course, gives you control and IP, which is awesome, right? You set the roadmap. It's not a vendor. Of course, as a vendor ourselves, we're influenced by our customers, and our strategic customers, we build together with them. We love their input, right? Of course, though, if you're looking to build and your IT team is taking on that build, they can be able to prioritize exactly what matters today without having to wait on a vendor or another customer. Finally, the selection of that scope, right, and rolling out, this is something that you can be able to, again, completely control. Determining that, for example, what is exactly the thing we need more than, for example, getting a suite potentially where you're not using capabilities. Of course, our solution being modular, our solution is able to pick and choose the different modules, and therefore leads to us not being in a place where we're having phantom technology. But of course, in some cases, this is the reality, right? Businesses buy too much technology that they don't need. So of course, building would help you to be able to avoid that. Now, what are some of the pros on the other side of buying? Well, solutions that are out there on the market, they're tried and tested. What does that mean? It means that you can typically configure them, get up and going, and go live much quicker, right? A lot of the heavy lifting is done, and we're going to quantify this in the session in just a minute to talk about the timeline associated with building. What also means is that the risk of delivery is much lower. Again, there's proven templates. It's been out in the market, and there's a support team not only after go live, but also throughout onboarding that is there holding your hand. Additionally, you have that shared roadmap with continuous improvements at minimal effort, right? It's not your IT team of building, it's the vendor that is building towards a better future with you. Now, this is important that we get the technology that we need, whether you build it or buy it, and we'll show a framework in just a moment that's going to help us to be able to decide what's right for us. But the reason why it's important is because the jobs, well, they're growing. What we see on screen here is a view on the bottom of the traditional role of procurement. Reduce cost, save money, manage risk, right? That isn't going anywhere. That's still a big requirement. But on top of that, there's an emergence of various responsibilities and challenges that procurement teams have to be able to take on. Build transparency in your supply chain, drive performance in your supply chain, make a more resilient supply chain, and ensure that there's not going to be a disruption in our supply chain. Make sure that we have the right vendor at the right cost with the right quality in a resilient supply chain. Oh, and by the way, make sure that it's also sustainably produced as well. The jobs are surmounted, and don't just take it from us. The Hackett Group did a study heading into 2025 showing that the total workload volume that was going to increase by 10%. Think about that. For every job on your table, add on another 10% to that particular job. If you had 10 jobs to do, you now have 11 jobs to be able to do. With that being said, the procurement staff increase was planned to only be with 1% on FTE. That creates a massive efficiency gap that we need technology to be able to close. So, why in the heck would it be important to go out to market and buy technology? Well, to close this efficiency gap, but more so than to close this efficiency gap, the thing that we need to be able to focus on is how are we going to get technology in our business? There's 3 reasons why businesses buy or build software, period. And this is what your CFO wants to hear about. You're either going to make money, you're going to save money, or you're going to minimize risk, right? The role of procurement in 2025 is so much more than just buying. Equally so, we have to get in a position where we're ready to sell the importance of getting technology to cover the scope of source to pay, because otherwise we're going to fall behind on the jobs to be done. This is a hard fact. Procurement organizations, you guys, unfortunately, get only 17% of the technology that you ask for. So if you go out to market and you find great vendors that you want to work with, you build strong business cases, you go back, most of the time, you get only 2 of the 10 solutions that you want. This is a fact. And at the same time, 80% of the B2B SaaS buying is done without me or any of my team in the room, right? It's done with you guys building strong business cases that are rock solid, that show why the technology that you're trying to bring into the business is going to close that efficiency gap on an operational level, help you to be more tactically sound in your day-to-day job, negotiate better contracts, create opportunities for savings, manage the performance of your vendors, ultimately leading to strategic goals, right? Which is going to help you to guard your brand value and reputational risk, but also to drive revenue within your supplier base, opportunities for growth. You have to link in some way an investment back to the strategic goals of the broader business, because otherwise, this is going to be the case. Your IT director at the build in-house company, right? The company that is very happy to be able to have the homegrown solution as the go-to. They're going to ask you, why in the heck would we pay a subscription fee? Our team can build. So I'm curious, with a poll here, to understand the experiences of the different stakeholders that we have. Have you been asked to investigate a build? But also equally, do you have maybe a homegrown culture in your business? Yes or no? I'm just curious if those individuals that are in attendance today, take a second to be able to answer the poll that's on screen here. We have 26 people now in attendance, 3 votes. Let's take a second to be able to vote on this particular item. It'd be interesting to see if this aligns with that 25% of people that were already mature and have a solution. If that same 25% will say no, we'll see. That's a pretty balanced view. So far 15 votes. We'll leave it on for one more moment before we stop the poll. All right, so it's about an 75-25 split so far. Not everybody has voted the same as the last time, but still the vast majority of people have a investigative build in a homegrown culture. Very interesting. Hopefully, of course, we'll be able to give you the ammunition then that you need if you're interested in buying. And of course, if the matrix for decision-making of being a business that should buy fits you, we'll hopefully be able to give you some ammunition of why the buy is maybe the right way to go. Now, again, let's see if that is the case. Getting into really some of the, let's say, key elements surrounding, for example, projects of build. This is a little bit of a reality check. I was shocked when I saw some of these figures from the likes of McKinsey and Gartner and Forrester. 66% of internal software projects run over budget. 70% of custom-built systems fail to meet the original requirements. And of course, the requirement scoping takes a long time. We'll get to that in just a moment. 20 to 25% of the IT's annual budget is spent just maintaining custom-built tools, meaning that, of course, after it's built, you have to vie for time and effort and engagement from IT to make sure that it's being maintained and kept up to speed. And the last point is, of course, crucial, right? Vendor-led implementations, they achieve ROI 2.5 times faster. And I think that this goes back to what we were talking about before. Tried and tested onboardings, templated ways of working, and other patterns that can be taken from a broader customer base using a particular product. Again, a focus on configuration rather than building and customization. It's a pretty staunch differentiation between those two things. And here's the interesting thing, right? Digging into the data, building, right? it can unfortunately stall before you even get started. So let's take a little bit of a timeline here. If we want to be able to build a new product to be able to support us in SRM from the 1st of January 2026, let's say we're based out of Europe, so of course it's not going to happen on the 1st of January. Let's say, what would that be? It's not going to happen the 6th of January either. It's going to happen the 8th of January, all right? Because everybody's getting back from leave. So the 8th of January 2026 takes 1 month for scoping with the team. And this is, of course, based on us having allotted resources for that scoping. IT approval can take anywhere between another 1 to 3 months as per the data that is out there in the market. Now, the IT backlog of an average enterprise, an enterprise between $100 to $1 billion in revenue, that was the split that was taken for this particular view, 4 to 7 months when it comes to the backlog. Whereas then development can be anywhere from 9 to 18 months before anything is actually going to be rolled out, go live with your team, be in a position to be fixed, and then also have a session of hypercare. So this is the good news. Your case, if you're looking to buy on the time frame, if there's a sense of urgency, it's pretty clear. Here's the bad news. If you start in January of this upcoming year to build a solution, and that's saying that your team is going to actually engage, because this is also an optimistic timeline here on some of these spans, then you'll have a solution in anywhere between 18 to 20 months. So we need to think about this for a second, because right now, I can tell you, we're living in dog years. And I'll tell you what I mean by this. I was at a roundtable discussion that was at procurement leaders in Austin, Texas. And David Schultz, who is a CPO at Westfall Technic, a manufacturing business, said that we're right now living in dog years when it comes to technology, so software as a service, and AI. And I'll tell you what he meant about that. Now, the traditional perspective of dog years is what? Every 1 year of a human year is 7 dog years, right? And I know that the content's quite small, but if you humor me to be able to look at, for example, what's on screen here, the actual first year of a dog year, a lot of researchers say is more like 16 human years. And the kind of correlation and alignment aligns at 7 dog years and 7 human years, to the area of 49. So that's where the kind of 7 times 7 aligns. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because last year, it was all about understanding AI. This year, it's all about applying and using AI. 2026, well, it's going to be a really interesting time in the age of software as a service and the age of AI as well. But right now, living in dog years, if you wait 6 months to get something done, that's like waiting 10 years in technology years. It's something that we need to remember. The pace of technology is not going to wait for our IT teams to be able to build. And yes, of course, our IT teams then, in essence, will be able to take advantage of all of the great solutions that are out there in AI and software as a service to be able to support in building. Absolutely. But there's some unfortunate statistics around the AI divide when it comes to build versus buy as well. In a recent MIT report that was launched at the end of August this year, the MIT NANDA, which is kind of their agentic focused kind of a network, so to say, they did a study of a few hundred different AI deployments, as we see. And what they found is that only 5% of enterprise AI pilots were delivering any measurable impact. And it wasn't because of the models. It was because that the enterprise integration or the slow internal builds killed the projects. So what works? What actually gets AI and software as a service embedded? Well, purchase solutions succeeded 67% of the time. and they did it 3 times more than the internal builds. This is also important to keep in focus. When they determined that they wanted to build or buy, they went to market and had a very focused and real problem that they wanted to solve. The real risk in this year, right, is not adopting anything. I mean, sitting around this paralysis by analysis, go out and try, right? I was at a recent event where Yannick Thierry of Bain and Company said a very fun line. The best time to start your AI adoption is yesterday. The second best time is today. What we recognize is that, again, if we're living in dog years, 12 to 24 months of building tools that never will scale or adapt is completely unacceptable. We don't have that time to be able to lose at this time. So yes, do we believe that buy is the right option? Absolutely. We're going to show a matrix in a moment that can make you determine if it is right for you or not. With that being said, this is going to be the question that you're all thinking. Software, it can be expensive, but what does it cost to build? Is it actually just cheaper for our team to be able to build? Well, when you crunch the numbers, the build of the homegrown solution versus the buy becomes a CapEx versus OpEx equation, right? But when you take into consideration length or time to go live, the cost of opportunity lost in that period of time, as well as then also the elements relating back to the pros that we showed about building versus buying, right? Maintenance and enhancements, while they can be completely bespoke when you build solutions, which is awesome, the issue is that it's going to stop there unless if you get more time from IT or engineering. And that roadmap or innovation, it's not going to be something that somebody's driving forward in the IT team without you guys driving it forward. Cumulatively, over 3 years, the build can be anywhere between 2 to 5 times more expensive. And the net reality, well, it's resource heavy, whereas going out to market can be more nimble. Again, you will have to be able to sacrifice and create the opportunity for change within your business. But this is also the difference between digitizing your day-to-day and digitalizing your processes. So you might be thinking, how do you know if you are in fact ready to go out to market? And when is homegrown good enough? Because it might be good enough for you. And there's no shame in that. It means that you're at a different point in your journey. So what we've put together is a decision-making framework that makes this simple. It boils it down, as we see on screen here, to a number of criteria. The criteria that we have on the left-hand side of the screen here are categorized into complexity and risk of the project or your supply chain, the capacity and ownership of the IT or the technology, and also what your overall urgency is in your business to get something done, but also the cost of opportunity loss if you don't. So what we've done here is we've bucketed these into 0 points, 1 point, or 2 points. So what you can do is you can be able to actually start giving yourself a score to determine, are you in a position where homegrown and building is right for you? Or should you be looking at the market to potentially buy? So what we've done is we've actually put together a tallying scoring methodology, as you see in the bottom right-hand corner here. So if you're in a position that your total score is between 0 to 6 when you tally these up, then building something or potentially piloting, if you truly want to go out to market, could be the right move for you, right? You might be in a business that does not need to buy solutions. 7 to 12, you most certainly should be looking at the market, whereas 13 to 18, there's a strong recommendation to focus on what's out there in market, considering, of course, that you are a business that can justify this particular investment. And also that you're a business that likely needs solutions for supplier relationship management in a more outright manner. So I'm curious, if you have a second, let's tally up here. Where are you in the journey? And what I'd like to do is actually to be able to, when you have a second to tally everything, I'd like to launch a poll and just be curious where you fall of those that are in attendance today. Then we'll shift over to the live demo of Kodiak, a high-level demo where we're going to focus primarily on some of our capabilities to pull together various insights, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So let's start the poll now. Where did you wind up in your build versus buy SRM framework? Interesting to understand. There's 11 votes, 24 people in attendance. If you have the second to be able to vote on the poll that is now launched, please do so. Maybe you didn't get the time to be able to tally. If not, no worries. We will have a handout of today's documentation or presentation that we shared as well. Gotcha. So it seems about, 87%, almost 90% of those in attendance are in the bracket of 7 to 12. That's 27%, and 13 to 18 points is 60% of those still in attendance with us today. Well, that's fantastic, as we're going to get into a demonstration of the Kodiak platform. And I would love to be able to show people why it is that buying a solution is something that can be right for you. Before we do so, though, I would like to actually ask if you're interested. You can be able to, right now on screen, while I switch over things on my end, book a demo. Simply utilize the button that is on screen now, and you'll be able to find some time to speak with one of our fantastic representatives and SRM experts about the capabilities of the Kodiak Hub platform. So if you fell into that 7 to 12 or that 13 to 18, and you're in market or going to be in markets, well, I sure would hope to be hearing from you. My feelings would be hurt otherwise. All right. With that being said, then I'm going to get into the high-level demonstration of the Kodiak platform, and I'm going to ask Richard, if you don't mind just switching over to ensure that the stream is showing my screen that is on the demo screen. Just confirming that that's the case as well.
Hey, I'm trying to get it up, but it seems like it's not really switching.
Okay.
Can you try adding it?
Let's do like this.
Yeah.
I think that's the case.
Exactly.
Right here?
Yeah, now it works.
Super. And let's keep then the just the screen in frame, if that's okay, during the demo.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone into the Kodiak Hub platform. Thank you guys again for staying this long through the session. And you soon will be having a deeper tour if you decided to be able to book some time with our team. Again, if you're in that position where you are mature enough to go out to market, well, then we sure hope to be hearing from you. When it comes to the Kodiak platform, there is a lot of capabilities. Everything from, like I mentioned before, third-party risk to intake and onboarding, due diligence, quality management and audits, as well as then performance evaluation, all held together by a complex action and collaboration space where workflows can be able to be managed, everything from approval and qualification workflows to, external communication and collaboration, corrective actions, and improvement proposals and the like. So we're not going to have the time to be able to demo everything, but of course, if you have a specific need, it'd be great to be able to hear from you on those particular needs. What we're going to focus in on today is really the capabilities related to building a supplier profile and how an SRM solution can be able to help you create really robust 360-degree scorecards as an output, I would say, of the capabilities that were described. So what we see on screen here is a supplier 360. It's your control tower. It's your really cockpit to be able to manage the vendor relationship. What do we see is the data, the documentation, the communication ongoing with this vendor. But we also are exposed to a triage of different insights related to their third-party risk, the contextual country risk, their compliance, ESG, or operational risk profile, as well as then also their real output and their performance, all in one place. Now, giving you a quick orientation of what we're seeing on screen here, of course, we have up in the top left-hand side of the screen, the flagging or approval, that is different insights which can be triggered based upon activities ongoing. For example, a vendor falls out of compliance with something, or a user will update based upon something that they've seen. What we see on the right-hand side of the screen is then the various, some high-level insights, where this vendor is located, their websites, when they were added or created in the solution, but also, as you see to the far right, the global rating and then also the top-level credit score, which are some quick insights to give us an understanding of the financial health, but also the overall rating of this particular supplier. Now, that overall rating, if we bring your vision to the left-hand side screen here, this is driven then by the various pillars of health, or these donuts, as our friend Steve Middleton in our company likes to say. The donuts here are going to give us a view of the contextual risk in this country, driven then by 40 internationally recognized indices, giving us a snapshot of social, environmental, geopolitical, and financial risk in that country. We can dive deeper always to understand specific risks in specific areas. And what does this do? Well, it gives us a foundation to double materiality risk, but it also gives us a foundation, of course, to understand where are there contextual risks that maybe we dig deeper in when we're following up in our due diligence or our audits within a particular region of the world. The sustainable practices, 14 different areas, giving us a snapshot of the operational risk, ESG, or also compliance levels within various areas. We set the parameters, we determine what good and bad looks like, and the output at the front end gives us a snapshot of, well, where's the vendor doing well, where are they doing poorly, based upon the various results that we get in self-assessments and can be updated by what happens in audits. Any documentation shared with us, of course, within these particular requests, well, we're not just going to be able to have the values related back to them, we're also going to actually be able to find documentation as well. And documents, of course, are going to be always linked back to anything that the vendor has shared with us, or we ourselves want to be able to manage and upload in the platform. So we can find them quickly based upon their name, their typification, their segment. And these are things, of course, that we can not only be able to report out upon, but also, of course, the triggering of things like the expiry date can make sure that we always keep documentation up to date by triggering automated requests to vendors when documents are, in fact, going to fall out of their levels of acceptance. Going back to the overall rating, we see then also the last pillar of health being the performance. Now we understand the business practices of this vendor, how they say they're doing. Well, what's the real output? There we have 6 different KPI areas covering quality, supply chain, commercial, various other more qualitative aspects such as collaboration, innovation, and of course, the actual output and sustainability, waste reduction, and things of that sort. Underneath, again, these particular areas, a user or, for example, the business utilizing this platform can determine, well, what in fact are the different types of sub criteria that are important to us. They can be able to determine what those particular values have as a weight against them, again, determining what good and bad looks like, so that over time, one can be able to track, is a vendor getting better? Are they getting worse? Or are they maybe remaining stable or the same within this particular rating area and KPI? Again, it allows us to be able to quantify and measure over time things that otherwise sometimes are very difficult to be able to quantify. Data management, well, that's simple in the platform. It's directly in the data properties. This is the same stuff that can be able to help us to find vendor groupings or segments or tags very quickly. Further down on the left-hand side, we see that there are prior reports. So say we want to pull forward all of the most recent audit reports. No problem. We're able to find those and dive directly into those individual reports, keeping, for example, various insights in the same place. On the left-hand side of the screen, we also see different types of actions that are ongoing, archived, or brand new with the supplier. So say we have a corrective action plan, we can be able to directly find those corrective action plans that are currently in the status that they are in. We can dive into those corrective action plans from this particular view as well. And we can also be able to quickly understand more of those corrective actions at a higher level, of course, based upon the fact that we have a direct overview of all of the actions that are ongoing with particular vendors or of particular types as well. Now, the actions is a really powerful piece when it comes to the relationship management. Why? Is because, of course, this opens up dynamic portals for both internal stakeholders to manage workflows, but also external stakeholders like yourself and a supplier to be able to manage communication and collaboration all in one interface, keeping everything then, of course, tagged back to the individual vendor scorecard as well, which you can, of course, again, be able to always find the vendor, the overview of that communication ongoing in an individual vendor scorecard as you see the various actions there are. The products, services, and commodities linked back to this vendor, we can also be able to have the view and scope of, for example, the commodities or commodity versions linked back to this particular vendor. So we can have a multi-dimensional view of data, the supplier that we're buying from, the commodity that they're providing us with, as well as then the POs related back to those particular commodities. That relational data allows us, of course, to be able to see the vendor from various views and stay up to date with not only the compliance at a supplier level, but also at a product level. Moving over to risk, there's capabilities related to financial risk, sanction checks, media checks, and alike. What we see is that, for example, we can be able to follow up and stay on top of reputational risk at the beginning of the relationship when we're running intake or during ongoing monitoring of a vendor as well, as we see these particular results continuously are updating to give us more results on whatever it is that are important to us. With that being said, we're going to now finish off on the demo. So Richard, if you don't mind just clicking away on the screen share. And we're going to shift over instead into the view of the Q&A. So thank you all for those that have sat through the session as well as then the demo. Now I would love if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop those directly in the chat line and we'll make sure to mark those questions and get around to them one by one. So this could be about the content from today, the demo itself, the platform, the capabilities, and alike. Feel free to go ahead and drop your questions in the chat line. Serena, Thank you for your question. Again, please feel free to continue to ask questions. We will mark these particular questions and then we will answer them one by one. So we're going to start then with Serena's first question here. Where's the financial health pulled from? Simple, Serena. You can be able to determine, is it interesting with our vendors or an existing vendor? So we do have a bring your own license capability, meaning you can plug in your existing provider if it is not one of the providers that we provide, for example. Our providers that we provide are credit safe, as well as then also Mode Finance. So Mode Finance is a great vendor, I would say, for a more Euro or EMEA centric vendor base, whereas Credit Safe is the vendor that we typically propose if you are interested in a more broad or global supplier base, primarily then also a North American or also a South American supplier base. Thank you very much for that question. Moving on then to the next question. How do you advise organizations to evaluate time to value when comparing build versus buy? Josh, that's an incredibly interesting question. So, I mean, when it comes to the advisement on the time, right? The time taken again is going to be determined by the opportunity to be able to onboard fast. Again, utilizing those templated capabilities that exist across various customers that are in our or other vendors' customer bases, and those best practices in getting up and running fast. So time to value is crucial. And I think that that is probably one of the most essential elements to where the opportunity or cost of opportunity lost lies within the perspective of choosing to build is the time to actual value, right? And we focus so much on time to quick value. And of course, that is essential for our customers to be able to do when they are buying solutions with Kodiak. Serena's question, are you able to connect to Ariba? Simple answer, yes, absolutely. And that is no problem for us. On to the next one. Josh. Josh asks here, where do you see organizations underestimate the hidden cost of building their own systems? That's an interesting question. I think that if we go back, for example, to the content, if I can jump out of this particular one, let's remove this from the stream, of the build versus buy, right? I would say that the biggest underestimation is on the maintenance and enhancements, right? And also, this is the thing that is the biggest frustration. Somebody builds something, right, and it's a awesome Power App driven, SharePoint front end, and it works, and everybody's really happy. They're enthralled because they haven't had anything. But then, reality sinks in, and there's fixes that are needed, and IT's moved on to their next project. And what do we remember? Well, IT, of course, themselves, they have a 4 to 7 month backlog. And then they go into development on new projects. What does that mean? Well, you could be anywhere between 4 to 18 months out from getting any help, right? And I think that for us, that's where we see the most organizations underestimate the hidden costs. And it's really related back to the time to value. And then again, on top of that, the time that's going to be required to actually iterate and improve over time, right? Which is, again, if you're working with a third-party vendor, something that is included in your subscription, right? Continuous improvement, continuous releases, and the ability to be able to continue to get more for your buck in that case as well. Doesn't seem like we have any more questions except for one more here. Chris, how do you navigate the build versus buy question when somebody within the business is emotionally attached to building or a built system? Really interesting question. I think that it starts with asking who and why and when, right? And respecting the work that they've done, because it's incredibly difficult to build a system as well. But clearly trying to build a case around why it is that, for example, the change is necessary, right? And I think that that's the hardest thing to be able to quote unquote sell, right? When you're looking to build, or if you're looking to buy, is of course the change, the element of change, and how it's going to be able to swing in the right direction and make sure that that you're actually getting more ROI and reducing the cost of inaction by doing so. Thank you all for the questions, thoughtful. I hope that we were able to provide some insights today. If you're interested in downloading the slides, feel free to be able to do so now. You can be able to directly be provided with the slides that have been shown during today's session. And I appreciate everybody's time sitting into today's session. Again, if you're interested in getting in touch, feel free to go on our website, peruse, learn more about us. Otherwise, see you next time as well. Thank you so much.